Brooke, thank you so much for spending this time with me this morning. I'm excited to learn about what you've been doing since high school. And I know, certainly we have a lot of students interested in owning their own business one day, and that is what you're doing full time right now. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to share.
Absolutely. So I know you graduated high school in 2018, correct, from Scioto?
Yes, I did.
Very cool. And now how long have you actually owned your business, and maybe even just share what it is and kind of what you're focusing on right now?
Yeah, so I own my own photography business. It is mainly focused on weddings right now. So that is like the bulk of my work is I just photograph weddings. But it started back in high school even. I started taking senior photos for my friends as they were graduating. And then during the COVID, so a couple years after high school for me, is when I started getting into more weddings and really putting myself out there and making my job a business. So I started by doing all of that, and it was part-time for me as I was attending college. So I attended college, got my 4-year degree throughout all of this. But once it was time for me to graduate college, I basically came to the conclusion that I did not want to go into the field that I studied, which was social work. And instead, I just wanted to take the next leap of faith in my business and just do my wedding photography full time. So I've been doing it full time now for two to 3 years. So yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, and I think it takes a lot of courage to do something like that. Certainly after you complete a degree, you feel a lot of that pressure to kind of then go and use it. So as much as I'm sure that was a difficult choice, I feel like you had obviously done a lot to educate yourself on what you were really passionate about, and you had already gotten your start and kind of knew what the lifestyle would be like. So how did you figure out you could support yourself with this business? Like, when did you come to that realization that you didn't have to do this part-time, you could really go all in and make a living out of it?
I think a lot of that has to do with like time. Like I knew if I was able to give it my full energy and time of saying yes to a bunch of things, saying yes to a bunch of weddings, I knew it would provide, but it was definitely I had some confidence a couple years before graduating college as I was starting to make money. Definitely when I started out doing photography, I did not make a lot, but towards like the end of college, I was starting to make more money when I was taking on more weddings. And I kind of came to the conclusion that like, if I really commit to this and I fill my schedule as much as I can with this job that I want, then it will return for me. So that was kind of what my story was with that.
No, I think that's awesome. And certainly you have to put a lot of time and energy into developing the skills, and then even just
Yeah.
understanding how to run a business and how all of that would work. So what really helped you with your
Yeah.
learning curve? Did you have a network of other entrepreneurs that you talked to, or how did you really figure out how to do this on your own?
Yeah, I definitely had friends who also were interested in the small business world. So one of my biggest friends in that journey is Lauren Alexander, who also went to Dublin Scioto, which is fun. Take like her business is very different than mine, but we were both kind of learning along with one of our other college roommates, just like kind of who started a pottery business. We all kind of were just like learning together. It was definitely a big learning curve. I wouldn't say we really knew what we were doing, but we had to start somewhere. So they were definitely a big influence on me. And as well as just, yeah, I think I've always had like that organizational, like business mindset just throughout life. And so I feel like all those parts kind of came together to help me on my journey with that. But
No, I love that. And I think it's awesome that you had people you were living with that you could really just be there for each other and kind of learn and grow together. And certainly that's life, I think, is just finding those tribes of people to surround yourself with who are inspiring you in the ways that you're looking to be inspired, and supporting you and really kind of helping you reach the level that you're trying to reach in whatever it is you're pursuing. So outside of kind of having those friends to work with and kind of troubleshoot with, were there classes that you took in college, or were there other programs outside of college that helped you better understand what you're going to need to run the business side of things?
I wouldn't say necessarily classes for the business side of things. I think the business side of things was like so much trial and error and a lot of just honestly on Instagram. I was account on there for my photography and just watching what other people were doing. I don't know if I necessarily recommend that to everyone, but like that was a lot of how I learned everything, was just seeing, okay, they're doing this for their business. I'm going to take some of this from that person and incorporate it into mine and see what happens. And I just learned a lot from following along other people who were doing what I wanted to be doing. So that was the main way I learned about any of the business things. Obviously, I also have like acquired help for like taxes and stuff like that. Like I definitely hire out a CPA. I'm not a pro at most of that stuff, but for like just the marketing and all of that, I feel like a lot of that was just learned through watching what other people were doing.
No, I think that makes sense. I think it's a great example of you create your own learning opportunities. You look for those who, to your point, are doing things that I would like to be doing, and it seems like they're making a living from this. To me, that says I could do it too, but I'm not there yet. I haven't quite found my rhythm and just kind of where I'm going to fit. So obviously, wedding photography is a great business. Every weekend, people are getting married, even on certain days that are not on the weekends, because it's less expensive to get married on days that are not Saturdays and Sundays. So I'm sure you're finding ways to go and support in all of those different ventures. So outside of wedding photography, could you see this growing in the photography realm? Are there other aspects of business that you're curious about that you could maybe one day see yourself venturing into as well?
Yeah, one of the big things for me is I've loved weddings. So I think this is like opening up so many thoughts and ideas in my head of maybe owning a wedding venue one day in Columbus, Ohio, which would be a dream of mine, or owning a photography studio, or like ventures like that, along with just like continuing to just grow my brand to eventually have people, maybe employees or something down the line. Right now it's just all me, but it would be great to keep shooting weddings and having people help me edit them or whatever. So I'm not totally sure exactly where my business is going at the moment, but I definitely have those like big dreams of it definitely can be more than just myself shooting weddings on the weekends.
No, I think it's awesome that you have those visions, and I'm not surprised to hear that. And certainly the fact that you've already found a way to support yourself with what you're doing now, and as you allow yourself to save some money and consider where you want to reinvest in your business, I love that you have ideas such as a venue or others that can help you grow it in other ways, or anything. It sounds like, that whole wedding realm is really an area that you've just found a passion for. Is there any other area of photography? Like, I know some people are crazy about their pets or things like that. I mean, I don't know if those are things that you think about, or it's like there's already people that are so established there it'd be hard to break in.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have also an interest in just like nature photography. And, when I go and travel, I would love to just be more intentional about like taking photos and then maybe selling them or something. I also work with some families sometimes. I do some seniors down at OSU. I do their graduation shoots, and sometimes in high school, senior photos as well. Weddings is definitely like my biggest thing, and I think there's a lot of potential to grow. Weddings have I feel like since COVID have kind of like spiked. There's been a lot of them, and there is just like a need and a demand for my job at the moment. So I'm really excited about just doing wedding photography for now.
I think that's great. And I think you're living in a great area for it, because Columbus is one of those cities that is growing. It is very attractive for young professionals, which is an age group that is having their first wedding a lot of times. And they're looking for people to really capture it and make it special. And it's cool that you get to be a part of, in many cases, the best day of people's lives, at least at that point in their young lives. So I love that that's your full-time profession, that you get to be a part of creating those moments for people. It's really special. So let's go back a little bit to your earlier days. It sounds like you kind of had aspirations of owning your own business. Even while you were a college student pursuing a degree in social work, you really were starting to focus on a photography business. What were you doing in high school that started some of this, or was it even before then that you started to realize this might be a direction you wanted to go?
Yeah, well, I would say one of my biggest influences that has led me to where I am today is taking photography class in high school. Had I not taken that class in high school, I'm not sure I would know that I had a talent for it. So I took a photography class at Scioto High School. Mrs. Armstrong was my teacher there. We did film photography. It was really fun. And she was the one who kind of pointed out to me that that I had an eye for this. And that confidence instilled in me, like I just took that and kind of ran with it. I already liked playing around with cameras and such, but then I was like, okay, well, I'll just start taking photos of a lot of things. I started taking photos of the student section on Friday nights at football games and just like random school events, my friends' senior photos, like I mentioned earlier. That definitely just like really projected me forward, like gave me the confidence to pursue this as a job eventually. And it didn't start out as like a job. I was really just taking photos for free for a very long time until I was really able to, have a portfolio for myself, be like, I can do this. And that took a lot of confidence to be able to start charging people for what I was providing them. But once I started doing that, I realized that this is like I have a talent that can be a service, that can be a business. And I was able to just take like what I was passionate about and turn it into a career, which I know is just a gift. I can't believe I can do that. But yeah, it's been really fun. So definitely high school and yeah, taking photography class then.
I love that. I think it's obviously a class that a lot of times students just take an elective course because it sounds interesting or they're trying to meet a graduation requirement. But I love that you found something that really sparked that level of interest and that you had a teacher who noticed and said something to you about it and even led you to believe you're very good at this. So just so whether you do anything with that or not, that's a pretty cool thing to hear from somebody that you respect. So I love that it's led to you where you are today. I think obviously what you did after that was really what allowed you to become the successful business owner that you are now, is putting all of that time and energy into improving in a craft and just doing it because you enjoyed it and you knew that the only way to get better was to go out and do it. So the fact that you did that certainly put you in a position to reach the level where you are able to be a professional and to charge and to obviously feel good about that. And then people are happy to pay for that service because not anybody can just go and do that. There are a lot of people who think they can be a photographer, but you get what you pay for. Sometimes if somebody seems too good to be true and they've been at it for a while, then there's a chance that the level of what you're going to get at the end isn't going to be what you were hoping for. So I think it's great that you are kind of realizing all of that about yourself. And I'm curious, was there ever a point where you were reaching out to local photographers or people who did have businesses and say, hey, I'm a high school student or I'm a college student and I am really thinking I might be interested in this. Did you ever try any of those avenues?
Totally. One of the biggest things that got me into wedding photography is I knew another student from Dublin Side High School, Cuban, and he started a wedding videography company. And I reached out to him. I said, hey, I'm really interested in this thing. I don't know if you need any help, but he took me up on it and I shot a lot of weddings with him like that COVID summer. And that really got me into things, as well as I would just reach out to some other photographers and ask to help them out, there's always somebody who needed a second person at a wedding for them. So I started with a lot of those things, which gave me the experience that I needed to grow and to be able to make it into my own thing.
100%. And that goes for any industry. I think if you're willing to, especially at a young age where you're in a position where you don't need to be as financially able to support yourself. If you can, as a high school student, recognize, hey, I'm interested in whatever business or this type of industry, and you can just be helpful and be a volunteer or be somebody that makes a minimum wage to just go and be a sponge and to add value in any way you can. But really, you're there just to learn and network and see the possibilities. And then in your case, getting to witness what it looks like to actually do the job in that style of environment made you recognize, here's all the ways I would do it. And here's how I can go and maybe venture on my own and get started. So at this point, are you pretty much doing this on a solo basis, or do you sometimes partner with others who are also in the industry, or what's your approach?
Yeah, I do. I run my business solo, but I do hire out somebody for every single wedding that I have. So I'm always working with other people, and a lot of times it's younger photographers who are still trying to get their footing. So I love that I can be able to do that and I was able to gain experience from that as well. So yes, I do hire out people for like working weddings with me, but other than that, I do everything else on my own at the moment.
That's very cool. No, I think it's great that now you're in a position where you can be that guide for somebody who reaches out and says, "Hey, I'm interested in this." And it'd be easy to say, "Well, I'm not looking to add more competition," but you feel for people and
Yeah.
you see some of yourself, and then if they can make it, it doesn't mean you're not gonna
Mhm.
get opportunities in the future. There's so many people here getting married, like you've
Yeah.
already established yourself so well. It's nice that you're willing to help
Mhm.
those who are just trying to even see if this is something they want to do, right? Sometimes you don't know until you try it. If you can kind of work
Yeah.
those hours and be under that pressure and all of that. So I think it's great that you give
Totally.
those opportunities. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So so I don't want to spend a lot of time on what you ended up getting your degree in, but something I do want to ask you about because I noticed you did your first 2 years at Columbus State and then finished your degree at OS. So did you sign up knowing that you were going to do the Preferred Pathways program through Columbus State? Was that your initial thought when you went into your education?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah.
I love that. And I think I'm such a
Hmm.
huge fan of that because it there's a lot of ways to just make sure you're interested in something before you spend big money on it. And I think gap years and trying things and working for people before you go to college is a great way to do that. But that route is also a wise way to just kind of dip your toe in the water, get the general education credits. It's not typically a program that requires taking out loans, or at least not large loans if you start out at that Columbus State, because you're commuting, you're paying the very affordable tuition compared to most other colleges. So what was that experience
Yeah.
like for you, and is that something that you would recommend to people who are kind of still in that decision making phase?
Yeah, I totally recommend it. I look back with no regrets about that. Yes, I wasn't able to say like, "Oh, I'm attending the Ohio State University like right out of college." That's the only downside I feel like. Other than that, like I saved so much money. I actually lived on Ohio State's campus in a house with other people. So I was still able to get the same college experience of, meeting new people and being on my own and all that stuff. But then I just took a little 5 minute drive to Columbus State every day. And it just worked out really, really well for me. I think it's very smart, especially if you're not totally confident about what you're going to college for yet. I would say, why not just start at Columbus State and then figure it out? And I ended up getting my degree from Ohio State. All it says on the paper is the Ohio State University. Nobody even has to know that you went to Columbus State. So I loved my experience, but yeah.
I think that is great, and I'm glad that you're able to honestly share that, because you never know, right? I think if you're talking
Yeah.
to people who are in charge of recruiting for programs and things like that, they're going to sell it in their own way. So I love that we've got someone like you who can share, here's why I did it. It saved me all of this money.
Yeah.
I still got the experience that some people feel nervous about missing out on, because some people
Mhm.
will live from home because they just aren't ready to live on their own yet. Others
Yeah.
are dying to get out of the house, and they're afraid that if they go to a
Yeah.
school that's mostly commuting students, that they're not going to have that experience.
Mhm.
But while you might not be in a dorm room, you can still live on a campus. You can still be around students who are just learning how to be adults for the first time and independent.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you had that experience. And I'm a huge fan of their Preferred Pathways program. The credits transfer so
Mhm.
seamlessly. They have great services on the campus and career services and counseling and advising. If you are someone who takes advantage of that, it could really help you before you have to
Yeah.
make that big decision about what to do when you do select a major. To your point,
Mhm.
when you graduate, you get the same degree as anybody else. You just paid
Yes.
way less for it. So I think that's
Totally.
an important thing to point out. So well,
Yeah.
this is awesome. I think what you're doing is so cool. We have so many kids that are already starting as high school students, doing little things to make some money on the side, and like the idea of potentially being their own boss, or even just
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is something that they're interested in. So I love that we have students like you who are doing it and are making it
Yeah.
while being an entrepreneur. And now they can hear your story. And if they wanted to reach out and
Yeah.
say, hey, I have some questions about doing something similar, even if it's not photography, right? Just running a business. I
Yeah.
think we have all these people that would love to just give some direction to people in that situation. So I am so glad that you agreed to this. This is awesome.
Yeah. It's been great. Yeah.
So the last thing I always like to ask is, as we're kind of getting close to the end of the interview, is there anything that you wish you had known, or things that you think you could share with somebody who's kind of getting ready to make those big life decisions that maybe we haven't touched on yet, that would have been nice to know when you were that age?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would say is to not feel like you have to fit into the same box that everyone else is. If you are someone who just has like a unique talent or craft or passion, maybe it's wanting to own a business or something, yes, totally go to college if you feel like that is right for you and you're excited about the degree you would maintain there. But if you're not excited about it, I just think there is a lot of other just paths that you can take and you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Or like we talked about Columbus State, like an alternative like that, that is still a great option. But for someone who's not totally confident, I just would recommend that you don't have to do what everyone else is doing just because everyone else is doing it. I know that sounds very cheesy, but it's very true. And I wish I maybe would have thought about that a little bit more earlier on. Obviously, I have no regrets about maintaining a degree, but I'm also not using my degree. So that would just be like the biggest thing I would say is just to not feel like you have to fit into the same box as everyone else.
No, I think that's great advice, and certainly what you're doing is an alternative pathway that can be considered or selected, but even just other forms of education, right? We've got all these career and technical programs. We've got trade opportunities, especially now where all of this growth is taking place in Central Ohio. If you're somebody that just thinks, I don't really want to sit in a classroom, at least not right after high school. I didn't love it now. I'm silly to think if I'm going to walk in and care about it just because now I'm paying a lot of money for it. So just explore those other options. Think about opportunities through the military. Think about opportunities through trades programs. Think about different ways to just find mentors. If you want to be a business owner, look for people who are doing that and see if you can just shadow and maybe that they can hire you if that's what they're looking for. You might find them at the right time where they're looking to grow a business. So I love that you share that message, and it is something that we're trying to get more kids to recognize, that you define your own level of success, or your own definition of success. You define the different opportunities that can help you get there, and there's all kinds of people that'll talk to you about things that maybe you haven't heard of before, but you just have to be willing to ask the right questions of the right people, and then you'll know. Well, I am so grateful that you made time for this. I am excited that you are out there really enjoying the work that you're doing and adding all of this great value to people on these very, very special occasions. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm excited to be a cheerleader from the sideline and to see you grow in all the ways that you expect to in the future. So good luck with everything. Again, if you are looking for opportunities to connect with kids or come in and talk with students, we're always looking to connect students with or graduates with those opportunities as well.
Totally. I'm always available. So, yep.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Brooke. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.